No, it's DeKalb, wasn't it?
DeKalb, it was DeKalb, but he was connected with Hamilton too.
Well, he graduated a year behind me.
Well, okay, so,
He might have done it at Hamilton too.
is he that old?
Oh, yeah. See his wife, we had joking out there, his wife
we are
is a
live.
year younger in school.
It's
But
up.
she's 2 days older than I am. So I had to wish her happy birthday, because I know you'll be 60.
All right, I'm gonna call the meeting back to order. And we are 9:25, we're not that far behind. We are doing the first reading of the airport budget.
And real quick, we uploaded, Randy couldn't be here today, and so he sent us a briefing, so everybody should have it.
I found it. Quit looking at me like I can't find anything, Judy.
I'm laughing because I totally forgot to put him on the schedule.
And
then,
I looked at the schedule and approved it and then missed it too. So
and then he
we
emails
just
like,
totally
I won't be
forgot
there. I'm
about
like, oh, well, that's a good thing. Good thing I didn't account for it.
it. Yep. All right.
So
This
these are
is
first reading only and no signatures.
no signatures.
Correct.
Everything.
And we will do a public
Correct.
hearing at the meeting on the 27th.
For Fairfield. Oh, yeah, I guess it is a public hearing too. Never mind.
All right.
I need to go home.
Ordinance resolution number 2022-OCC-7. Be it ordained and resolved by the DeKalb County Council that for the expenses of the DeKalb County Airport Authority for the year ending December 31, 2023, the sums herein specified are hereby appropriated and ordered set apart out of the several funds herein named and for the purposes herein specified, subject to the laws governing the same. Such sums herein appropriated shall be held to include all expenditures authorized to be made during the year unless otherwise expressly stipulated and provided for by law. In addition, for the purposes of raising revenue to meet the necessary expenses of the DeKalb County Airport Authority, the property tax levies and property tax rates as herein specified are included herein. Budget Form 4B for all funds must be completed and submitted in the manner prescribed by the Department of Local Government Finance. This ordinance resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage and approval by the DeKalb County Council. Fund name, Rainy Day Fund. Adopted budget, $735,000. Airport Authority, adopted budget, $780,676. Cumulative Airport Building, $80,000, for a total of $1,595,676. And I have a motion to approve on first reading, ordinance resolution number 2022-OCC-7. Been moved by Councilman Yard. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Van Wy. Discussion?
Like, what are they asking for, or what is it
What's the
altogether?
maximum levy? Well, and don't forget that this is the adopted tax rate is not necessarily what it will be. There will be, you know, that's not determined until
Next year.
next year sometime. And that's just the estimated. It's usually, it will normally go down. Now, that's not an always, but normally it will go down.
Okay, so the estimated 2023 max levy is 902,880.
And that would not That would only be for the Fund 2101. That wouldn't be the rainy day fund or the Cume Building Fund. That would just be their,
Correct.
that would just be their general fund.
Correct.
So they're what, 200,000?
And all the DLGF did was take what their maximum levy was for 21, actually, and multiplied it by the 5% growth quotient for 23. That's how they get their estimate.
Okay. But in any case, we're $200,000 under their, what could be their maximum.
Correct.
Did I hear 900,000 something?
902,880.
Okay, so we're 200,000 under it. All right, I have a motion, I have a second. Is there any more discussion? Comment from the non-existent public? Cleared the room out pretty darn quick, didn't we?
Well, you shouldn't wait until the end to do this, so you have an audience.
Well, they're probably watching us online, Bill.
And they're probably went out for beer and they're done.
All right, is this my copy? Okay, all those in favor of approving on first reading the Airport Authority's budget signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same. That motion is carried. And next, we're going to move on to the county's salary and wage ordinance for 2023. You will notice, and I had Susan make a couple of quick changes in this when we first got here this morning, so you should have new copies, new printed copies. You'll notice there's a different format now to the wage and salary ordinance. It follows along with our two WIS studies that we did, puts departments together. And correct me if I'm wrong, but we've done this in an Excel spreadsheet. So in this particular, what will be the wage ordinance copy, you'll see the departments grouped together, the department wages are grouped together. So all the auditor, all the assessor and whatnot. But on that spreadsheet that Susan's done, we can bring in all of the COMOT A's and all of the COMOT B's together to see any anomalies or anything like that. The minimum and maximum there, this is one of the things that I asked her to put in there. The minimum on the left-hand column is this year's wage. The right-hand column where it says max is the maximum for that particular category or that line item. And the department head can, if doing the evaluations, give anywhere in that spread. Now, not everybody, and we found that out when we were doing the budgets, not everybody was making the maximum allowed in their category. So
the only one that needs to be discussed is what you want to do about VA. I didn't touch
Okay.
the part-time there or Rhonda's.
okay,
So that is, as it was submitted, requested on here. But even with the first reading, we can make changes, and then the second and third will be as amended. And the commissioners did talk about that position yesterday, and they are all in agreement, and they approved that, yes, he could be a full-time VSO.
well, and because Andy's here, for those watching, that we did discuss, Rhonda had requested that her part-time person, who is Travis, be moved to full-time and then eliminating the office manager position, clerical position there. Commissioners did approve that, which was one of our requests a couple of weeks ago. So we would need to make the, if what's on here is as it was submitted, we need to move those dollars that were in the office manager clerical position over to the, I don't know, what are we going to call this person? The assistant VSO or number 2, move that over to that line item. Zero out the, for the clerical position. And that's the next question. Right, and that was the next question. What? And I was not part
I
of the
asked,
discussions, so.
I specifically asked Dottie yesterday if they had discussed wages because of that fact, and according to Dottie, Rhonda is fine with him making more than she does. Which I don't know,
Yeah.
I don't think that that's fair because he's now getting perf and Social Security. I mean, he's getting all of the benefits now. So I don't think that that's right.
All right. All right, how are we going to handle this? I think that, Amy, I hate to put you in this position. Are there liaison? And, but getting with Dottie and with Rhonda, I think it has to be less than Rhonda. I mean, it just has to be. And, but how much less, you know, in other departments, we have made the second, or the chief deputy or the assistant person 80% of the manager. That would be a significant drop in this case. Go that far.
So, Amy, what had you figured out? Because if I look at what was requested for Rhonda, whichever Amy figured it out.
Yeah.
I show that if you go with what she requested for her position, then I show that that is $27.07 an hour. Mm-hmm.
Well, then does that keep her up?
Well, his is she requested 25.33, which is less.
And hers is at 27, so.
27.07. Correct. Yes.
They don't work 2,000.
They're 18-20 hours.
They work the reduced week, the 35 hours, or 35, or is it 38 and a half?
35.
Yeah, he's not exempt.
18-20. But they're, right, but it's not an elected official. We didn't use that on the others. They weren't elected officials. I understand what you're saying.
All right, but, and we can also, I mean, I don't want to reduce him necessarily, but we can also, he would be in a classification where in 24, the wage range would stay the same, would not go up.
Are we going to set any kind of precedent here that can bite us or not?
The other thing, I just thought of this, sorry, I'm kind of foggy this morning. The other thing that you probably should wait on, and if we have to amend this next year, we have to amend it. We probably should wait and see what the category comes back from WIS. Because I think Dottie's gonna send that job description on. I think she's gonna ask the committee first, and then I think she's gonna send that on to WIS since it's a new position. So we could leave everything as is here. Then, once we figure that out, even if it's after the 29th, then I can do an amendment to whatever. In the budget part, yes.
Back to this again, how much does Rhonda make now, per hour?
Right now,
What is she requested?
it'd be 27.07 an hour.
That adds up to how much a year?
49,279.
You know, I know we go against this, but I'll tell you what, for what she does for the veterans, she deserves, I think if we have to, I think she needs to be moved up to keep the other guy at 80%.
Well, her 49, whatever that is actually more than what the study is saying. The study is coming in that she should be at 48,387.
I thought one of the reasons, but that's one of the reasons they brought Travis back in as part-time, because there were things that the clerical person couldn't do that, that Travis could do when Rhonda was not available or gone. So there was no drop, no waiting for Rhonda to get back to accomplish something. So there's a good balance there, but yeah.
So current, currently for 2022, like right now, Rhonda is at 47,157. And the work study says that she should be at 48,387.43, so 48,388. So what she requested is more than what the study says she should be at.
Now there,
If
Dave,
that
is where I
matters.
think the precedent would be, that if we're, we've pretty much held everybody else to what the study said, so. Well, the current is 1973. Yep.
Yeah, he came back higher because of his, whatever he had. Yeah, he had,
Certifications?
yes. So, yeah. Becky was at 1973.
This study.
It takes in whatever is in the job description. So if the job description does not require a certification, it's not going to be in there. It's not going to be figured in.
But his job description is a certification.
I don't know. I didn't read it. You'd have to ask.
But
Lonnie.
they're gonna rewrite the job description and send it back to WIS.
Well, we better just sit on until we decide what we want to do, because
And we have time, but I mean, I guess that what we need to do here that we can decide today is, are we going to eliminate the dollars in the part-time or the office administrator category? Because those are going to get moved over with the permission of the commissioners. Those are going to get moved over to an assistant VSO, for lack of a better term. So we, but I also don't think we should eliminate the line item. We should zero it out, but we should not eliminate the line item, because if for some reason this doesn't work out, we have the line item and we can transfer the money back into it. So
Which that part's not a problem. That's what I was gonna say is even though what we see here as the office administrator, manager, and the part-time, even though she's not gonna have those, I would like you guys to still approve an amount there. So if
Okay.
at sometimes she
For the
needs that
salary.
person, then that salary, that amount is already set. But it won't
It
have
would be zero-
dollars.
it would be zeroed out in the line item for the budget, so.
So, okay. We're gonna decide what we're calling it.
Yeah, we need to decide what we're gonna call it, and for lack of a better term, this assistant VSO or something like that. And then, from what I'm hearing, or from what I'm seeing, it definitely cannot be more than the department head. And whether it's 80% of the department head or, whatever, it just cannot be more than the department head.
So
So we can determine that on the 27th.
as long
if-
as we have everything back from WIS.
Well, yeah. and
Or
that
whatever you guys
may-
decide.
but Rhonda and Dottie need to sit down with Rhonda and,
Right.
figure out what that wage should be, so they can bring it back to us.
Mm-hmm.
But, and Rhonda just has to understand, we will not agree to anything that's equal to or more than her salary. So, we'll work it out from there. I understand. All right, so do we want to amend this now to add in a line item that says Assistant VSO? We'll leave these three in here.
I would just wait. I would just
Want to do all
do
the
it like
amendments?
this and then.
We wanna do all
I'll
the
make
amendments next
The
week?
changes
Okay.
that we are discussing
All right.
for the end.
Okay. All right, well then, all right, I am only going to read the top of this. I am not going to read all of these wages.
Yeah.
All right. 2023 Salary and Hourly Wage Ordinance, DeKalb County Council, Ordinance 2022-OCC-8. DeKalb County Council hereby establishes the following salary and hourly wage ordinance to become effective for pay period 12/18/2022 to 12/31/2022, paid on 1/13/2023 through pay period 12/3/2023 to 12/16/2023, paid on 12/29/2023. It is further ordained that all salaries and wages shall be paid bi-weekly, 26 pays. It is further ordained that any employee hired after the date of the ordinance will have one pay period withheld for audit purposes. It is further ordained that compensation of employees and elected officials may include, but is not limited to, a stipend, health insurance, health savings account match, professional certifications, educational advancements, and per diems regardless of the source of the funds for which the money is paid. It is further ordained that the raises set forth in this ordinance are contingent on employment evaluations from the elected official or department head and submitted to Human Resources prior to the year ending 12/31/2022. Wherefore be it ordained this 27th day of September 2022 that this employee will be paid within the range represented below and cannot be lower than the federal minimum wage up to and not to exceed the maximum dollar amount set forth on this ordinance unless amended. I have a motion to approve ordinance 2022-OCC-8 on first reading. Been moved by Councilwoman Dembski. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Kraft. Discussion. Some of these things I've already pointed out in that we have minimum, maximum here. You will notice that the provision of doing an evaluation of the employee is included in the ordinance. No evaluation, no raise. Don, and Don's looking at me, and that's fine, right? That we are within our, okay, very good. At this point, I'm not sure when they do them, and I just want to make sure that they get done.
It's kind of however they choose. Mine is whenever I have time. I haven't hit their anniversary dates. It's just if I have time. When I have time during the year, then it's. I mean.
And Dottie has 3 or 4, I believe, that they can use. No particular form has been mandated, and each department can revise the form as they see fit to work for them. And I will say that, in the time period, as a manager, as a department head, we did it 2 ways in my previous employment. One was to do it on their anniversary date, which was always simplest for me because that meant I only had 1 or 2 at a time to ever do. To do everybody's at once when I had 87 employees that answered to me to do them all at once, there was nothing else got done during that month that it took me to do all those. And you wonder how accurate or how, it was just too much and it was an overload. So it's whatever is going to take, whatever they can do, it works for me. Yes. Which is why you. And I think that's one of the reasons that language about federal minimum wage remains in the ordinance. Well, and, this wasn't discussed in this forum, but in one of the educational sessions that I've been to in the last year with, actually Baker Tilly has run several of them, and the group that Mike Garrett, that Garrettage is with has run a couple. I've never liked longevity, but a lot of companies are looking at longevity again and have developed a matrix where the longevity pay is outside of the regular wage and is given almost as a stipend versus an increase in their actual wage, kind of like the president of the commissioners gets an extra dollar amount per month or per pay for being the president. I get the same, it's not the same amount, but I get the same thing for being president of the council. And that we could do something like that based on the wage and hour committee, our personnel committee, discussing what would be appropriate. Is it 5-year increments? Is it 10-year increments? Is it something that would be given every pay period? Is it something that would be awarded maybe twice a year or quarterly? There are all kinds of ways that we can address that longevity that we could apply across the board and make it fair. That's because the matrices that they have put together and the current people in those positions are not making what would have been the maximum.
So the person that was in there prior had more years of service than the people that are in there now, so their wages are lower.
And that I had caught a couple of those too, Amy, and that happens in several areas, but it goes back to what we talked about when we were doing the budgets, that even though an X amount of dollars was appropriated for that position, they were not ever being paid that amount or up to that amount. So there was still room for them to get a raise, even though we were not raising the category. And what is the average? I mean, when we look at all, I mean, there's raises were all over the board, but it came out to what, 6%?
6.49, I believe.
6.49%.
And that was
the average
all
wage
over
for all of our
yeah.
employees.
Yes.
There was a spreadsheet that was sent out for us.
Yes.
She did.
Yes, there was. So on the email that I sent last night at like 10 o'clock, that has 5 different attachments, and I have the titles highlighted, and it explains what those attachments mean. So there's one that is just called wages percent change from 2022 to 2023 in wages only. So I only pulled the wages in that report, not supplies, services, capital outlays. So that is the one that has the whole average that across the board, or the average out of all of those ended up at the 6.49%. But I left it in department so you can see how much each department went up in their wage area. Or didn't go up, some didn't go up. But then I sent you another attachment of the actual adopted and proposed adopted of the whole budget. So you have the entire budget, including the supplies and services.
The other thing to point out on this is that for the elected officials or anybody in that category, there's no range. It is, the salary is what it is. There is no range for an elected official.
And I don't know if you talked about this when I stepped out, but also on the email that I sent last night, there's an unspent appropriations Excel sheet, and there's 3 years at the bottom, 21, 20, and 2019, and it's by department also, so you can see per department how much of their appropriations weren't spent. That just all went back into the general fund to add to our balance.
And we wanted that because there will be a big difference in what we have done over these last 2 years in previous years, you had your budget, and if there was unspent money at the end of the 12 months, that went back into the general fund. Well, when those budgeted items were supplies and other expenses, there was a good chance that the full amount did not get spent. So there was something to carry forward. When we're doing this with wages, that's not going to be the case. Unless those positions are not filled, there's not going to be that amount of money going from one year to the next that was not spent. The wages will get spent. So that's something that you need to be aware of as we're looking at this.
And that brings down this big sheet, it's tiny, but that we handed the very first column as county general. So when I worked on this, as of August 12th for this year, we had a little over 8.2 million unused appropriations. And out of that, and you can see all the figures, out of that, I only estimated out of that we would only have 650,000 truly unspent. Very conservative. We have a lot more than that generally that's unspent, but because, like Rick said, we're getting to the wages only, we never know. So for that reason, if we end up having more than 650 unspent, then that's only going to help your 26.4%, this percentage down here, because we'll end up having more in our cash balance at the end of this year than what I'm estimating. It goes back into whatever fund it is from. So, I mean, it doesn't cross over. If it's not from the general fund, it's not going to go in the general fund.
Like highway money not spent would stay in highway, health money would stay in health. Those would be the big ones.
They get nothing.
No.
It just goes to the cash balance of the fund, and then what you guys approve right now for the next year, that's what they get. They don't get what they didn't spend plus what you're approving. They just didn't use them. It goes to our cash balance and helps the fund.
And what you're showing as unspent is not anything that would have been encumbered. That would be the only kicker on that, is if you had an expense in December or November and it didn't get paid until January or February, they would hopefully encumbered the money, so they would still go against that.
If they had an invoice
Yeah.
that truly, I'd have to think. I'm not sure if those pulled out of that or not, but I will look. And I believe what I sent you was only for county general. I didn't send all of them. I just sent county general.
That's the big one. But the point being is what we need to remember is that the likelihood of having that excessive amount of money left over from the budget at the end of the year is not as likely when we're dealing with wages as with the other items. Because the other items, the department could decide that, well, that's no longer needed, or I've handled that issue in a different manner, or we've ended that contract. So all of those things would affect how much they would carry over. But when we're talking wages, that unless the position's not filled, it's going to get spent. Okay, so I have a motion. Yeah, no.
Yes.
That'd be up to the department.
That's what the department had requested. I would be more along your lines. I'm not sure that it is, because it's.
Yeah.
but it's very small. So I think you probably would have to talk to Brian because of the way. So his people, because of the shifts they work, they automatically get 4 hours of overtime every week. Every 2 weeks. They automatically get overtime because they're on the 12-hour shift. So they already make more there, and so you'd have to ask Brian because he's got it figured out in a certain way that right. Right?
Well, and that's the, and that's the thing, the big one is the sheriff's department and the jail. There's some pretty high dollar there, so.
And central runs it what they have back. I mean, probably. That's all you have available.
Well, and there was another one that came up when we were doing the budget last week, and that is, we've fixed the amount of pay for a plan commission member or a BZA member or whatnot, and it's pretty much been the same for quite a while, but the health department was raising theirs up by a percentage, and now it's got some odd numbers on it, and I think that we need to fix those so that all these different committees are making a similar amount. But those are all anomalies that I think we can work on this year and next year. I mean, some of it, we can't go in and tell the health department, well, you gotta knock $1.25 off of yours because this, but we don't want anybody, don't raise it up anymore until we get everybody else up to where you're at.
You said there is or is not? So there's not a lot of room because of the study, and the those positions would have been increased more, already paid more than others in that category for that department.
The minimum was what we were paying. The maximum is what's based on the WIS study.
In reality, the minimum is the federal minimum wage, up to whatever you guys decide for the 2023. But for some reason, nobody could see that as a range. So now we have this so that they see a range. Because naturally, somebody's not going to pay somebody next year lower than 2022 for the whole year, just because the wages were low anyways, and we're still trying to catch up.
But we did the WIS study. Correct, so everybody has a, when we pass this budget.
You guys went with the 2022 median range. So technically, everything's a year behind. Because you're adopting or possibly adopting WIS's suggestion of 2022 median to pay in 2023. We did not because, well, we wouldn't have been able to fund it most likely.
We're already above the growth quotient of 5.
Yeah.
We're already up by going by to 6. And, you know, we are not going to do a study in '23 doing the '24 budget. I mean, we may be looking at doing more for '24. We probably will have to, but we can't bite, you know, we can't bite the whole thing off at once. It just isn't possible. You know, and I think the, you know, of course, we were always in a tough spot, but the offices and jobs where the only other comparison is government. Government is, we've all got the same issue. We have a limited amount of tax money available to pay for these positions. So, you know, the sheriff's department or police officers, that's always been a tough one because of how they jump around. But we're almost on the same plane with all the other counties because of the limitations we've got. Where the painful part for us comes for those jobs that have the similar jobs in the private sector. Because private companies can raise and lower wages much faster than we'll ever be able to. I mean, we're limited. I mean, we can't, you know, hey, everything went up 10%, so let's add 10% to our taxes. We can't do that. So we have to work within the parameters that we're given. And sometimes it's not easy. A lot of times it's not easy. Again, the police officers and jailers are going to, I think, be and dispatchers are going to be the toughest because all across the board they're raising pay to get people because they're tough jobs. They're tough jobs. I mean, most of us at my age, I certainly wouldn't want to do it. It takes a lot of commitment. That we've seen that, and so have other places with dispatchers. The job is just so stressful; it's very difficult to keep them in those positions.
$19.
2019. And all we did there was did the job descriptions, and we were not able to do the increases that they wanted. We did the best we could, and then the next year, we did
And that is all shown on the big spreadsheet that you guys would have had for last week that had all the million tabs. One says, I think, WIS, maybe I don't remember what I called it, and it says 2019 WIS, 20 whatever council decision, then what we did for the next year. It has all the years since that study's happened of the wages.
And I think you'll find that a lot of counties are in the same boat. A lot more counties doing the WIS study right now than before, but they're all reaching out for help because of how volatile wages are right now. All right, any more discussion on this one? Wage ordinance for 23. I have a motion, I have a second. Comments from the public? Hearing none, all those in favor of passing ordinance 2022-OCC-8 on first reading, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. That motion is carried. Right. So that moves us on to the budget. Okay, we have the budget. Does anybody desire to take a short break before we get into this one? Because this this is truly the only, I mean, we might have other things come up in the discussion periods, but this ordinance is the only one we've got. It could be lengthy, we can start, take a break if needed, or we could, yeah.
You can start reading, we can all take breaks when we need it.
That works for me too, that's fine. All right, so on this one, I am only the home ruled funds, I am not going to read all of those, so I'm just going to read what's in affected by the tax rates. That would be the things that are between the two blue bars on page 1. Ordinance resolution number 2022-OCC-9. Be it ordained, resolved by the DeKalb County Council that for the expenses of DeKalb County for the year ending December 31, 2023, the sums herein specified are hereby appropriated and ordered set apart out of the several funds herein named and for the purposes herein specified, subject to the laws governing the same. Such sums hereby appropriated shall be held to include all expenditures authorized to be made during the year unless otherwise expressly stipulated and provided for by law. In addition, for the purposes of raising revenue to meet the necessary expenditures of DeKalb County, the property tax levies and property tax rates as herein specified are included herein. Budget Form 4B for all funds must be completed and submitted in the manner prescribed by the Department of Local Government Finance. This ordinance resolution shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage and approval by the DeKalb County Council. Name of the adopting body is DeKalb County Council. Type of body, County Council. Date of adoption, September 27th, 2022. Fund name, Casino Riverboat, 0, adopted budget. Rainy day, $334,000. General fund, $21,132,522. Reassessment, $527,018. Debt service, $225,100. Convention and Visitors Bureau, $525,000. Highway Fund, $5,484,953. Local Road and Street, $665,000. Hume Bridge, $2,253,500. Health, $661,789. Emergency telephone system, this would be the 911 fund, $578,889. Hume Cap Development, $1,653,760. Economic Development Income Tax Seated, $2,923,000. Transportation, $125,000, for a total of $37,089,531. And I have a motion to approve this ordinance 2022 OCC-9 on first reading. Been moved by Councilman Yard. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Van Wy. Discussion. Last year's.
I'm looking, give me a second.
And you can see the adopted tax levy is based on the general fund, the reassessment fund, the debt service, Hume Bridge, Health, Hume Cap are the funds that have tax rates.
Amy, were you talking about the overall, the bolded black number?
The 0.51%.
So last year it was 0.5048.
Is what we approved at this point.
Last year, 0.5048 is what was completely adopted.
But completely adopted, is that what was used?
I don't know.
We always say that this
We're
is gonna
still in
drop.
it. I don't know. We're still in
Okay.
2022.
Okay, so we don't know what it's gonna drop to, just like with the airport. This,
Right.
this may
Right.
not be what it ends up being. It won't go any higher, but it could go lower. That's my question.
Yes, so
When we adopted the 22 budget, what was it and what did it drop to?
it was, I know that's only gonna have general. I can tell you general.
Yeah, and that's all that's always the biggest one.
Okay, so for the general fund, adopted was 0.3995. And general for is 0.3139. Okay. The whole, so rainy day, general, reassessment, debt service, highway, local road and street, Cume Bridge, health, and cumulative capital development, all of those next year for the tax rate is 0.4074.
That number to me again.
0.4074.
Other discussion. Susan pointed out earlier, there is one of the tabs on the spreadsheets that she sent. You can see where the increases are by department to the budget. Yeah, this is just first reading. We'll come back on the 27th and we can make changes. And the other items that are on that form are all items that do not have a tax rate. They're funds coming in from a different variety of locations or areas. But, we did not achieve our 30% is less. Knew it was going to have to be something less because of the wages that we had to do. But as I said during our budget meetings a couple of weeks ago, I'm comfortable with this because we are still putting money into the rainy day fund. It's money that's not being spent. Set aside. Now, it could get spent. It could be we could use that as a match on a grant that we get, whatever, but right now it is not. Comfortable with that, and we have, even at the amount we do have at the end of 23, we're still achieving an amount that is within the parameters that our own financial advisors has given us, plus what other financial advisors are giving other counties. Allocating them. Yes.
Another thing that we do on this big spreadsheet here with all these funds, generally you guys are looking at the general fund, so that's what we do our percentage on. So for instance, since Gianna's been doing this, in 2019, the target, the percentage that we were hoping to get to was 23.71%. That was what would have been adopted in that yellow line there after council did budget deliberations.
What year?
2019, it was 23.71. At the end of 2019, the actual percentage of cash reserves was 48.62%. In 2020, the target was 29.93. The actual was 50.01. And for 21, the target was 36.75, and we ended at 40.81. And a lot of that has to do, and those are actual, a lot of that has to do with because we do stay conservative in the numbers as we're doing this to help you get to whatever number you're wanting to get to, the percentage. So
Can you tell us what the 22?
right now, we're at,
No, not right now. When we did budget last year, what did we say? There's 36 and 21. It's interesting that we narrowed the difference.
But again, I go back to the point that I made earlier. A lot of that residual that was left over because of other services and supplies, now we're flipping, and our biggest expenses are definitely our wages. Not have that kind of money left over.
it was 29.44.
Other questions? Oh, hearing none. Do I have a motion and a second?
Yes.
I have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor of passing ordinance 2022-OCC-9 on first reading signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same. That motion is carried. All right, well, it's a good thing we didn't take a break, Bill.
Yeah, let's scoot through this because that was the school that called me.
Okay,
Child's puking.
all right. Mike, you got anything from commissioners? Any more questions about the budget? Any other issues with the council? I think we've got one issue that I know we've got coming up between now and the 27th is the VSO issue, but anything else that, you know,
With the commissioners or with you guys?
with us?
Okay.
He said no, you were past him already.
Okay, so the one thing that we need to talk about is
Oh, yeah.
the schedule.
Schedule for next
Oh,
year.
the budget presentation schedule.
Now, this is just my thought. Clarify it that way, it's just my thought. Since I have been here, we have done 2 full days of budget presentations by all the departments in August, and then we turn around and meet for 2 full days in the beginning of September to get the budget together in order to present it at our first regular meeting, as we've done this year. my opinion of what we hear in August is we hear the same thing from all the departments. It's been a bad year, or inflation's been this way, so I want to just move everything up to here. We get repeat for 2 solid days. I'm not sure that in those presentations that's beneficial to us. I would much rather the departments submit their budgets to the auditor's office, let them get the numbers into the spreadsheets. Let's have departments come in to us that have a special project, or there's some anomaly or something that is extra than just the typical inflation numbers. And so reducing those presentations that we get in August. I think we could move then to maybe a 1-day presentation day in August, and do the full, the 2 days in September. But that's given them, the auditor's office, time to get everything into the spreadsheets and get it into a set of information that we can do something with. That's my thought. Does anybody else have an opinion on that, or?
There are a few presentations.
Yeah.
Yeah. And $50 more here and $100 less. Necessary. We understand. Post is going to go up.
Yeah, I mean, in a lot of cases, like cost of fuel, it's the same for everybody.
Yeah.
How many times do we need to hear that their fuel costs are gonna go up? I'm just trying to make
Deliberating
it,
budget, we can evaluate that and go, oh, yes, it's way out, so that's why.
and I'm trying to make us more efficient here, and truthfully, if the department head goes over their budget with the council liaison, that, if we have questions when we're meeting, that liaison should be able to at least give us an idea of why this is in here.
I like that idea that if the,
And I met with 2 of mine. The only one I didn't meet was the commissioners, but I get enough of that individual discussions that I have with.
so we take notes.
And the kind of things that I'm thinking about that I would want them to still come to the full council is if they're gonna add personnel, or if they're gonna do some type of major project that's gonna increase their budget by 20-30%, some big item.
What about the counties do, right?
I have not, although I'll get that opportunity next week with 58 of them. So. Did see the increase, and then President asked their some counties go through. And that's kind of where I'm wanting to go to. I do know that I talked to the president of the Boone County Council last night, and they did most of their presentations and most of their work earlier this month. I've got to ask a question because they're not going to do their final vote until October. And I thought we had to have it done by a certain time, which is why we
We do.
come back in the 27th of September rather than a regular October meeting.
We're supposed to have
So-
it done by August 1st. So what that means.
When's the final vote on the budget?
I mean, October 1st.
October 1st.
So what
That's
that-
what I thought.
What that means is if they are not doing it until after October 1st, then that means that their approval, their budget orders, their tax rates, everything down their line that has to be approved is all going to be put down and put to the end because they're not meeting their deadlines.
Well, we meet our deadlines, and we want to keep that.
You have to download it too. You have to have a few days to get it.
Yeah, because come Tuesday or the 29th, when you guys do your final adoption, then I have 48 hours to get it completely dialed in. I mean, generally, I already have it done, but dialed in and uploaded and submitted to DLGF.
And we have, you know, since we've been doing it this way, since I've been here, and Bill has more knowledge, and Dave has more knowledge of what was done before, we've been meeting our deadlines. We're not being held up or penalized because we've not hit our deadlines. So we
They
do, we
moved the
keep,
deadlines up. They keep moving them up.
Yes, they do.
Used to be
That's
the
true.
1st of November.
Yes, it did.
I like it. Verbal, or paragraph about their budget. That time we can peruse it before presentation day. All here for presentation day. Black and white, we don't even have to ask questions.
Well, you don't need them come here. Let's say you get them a week ahead of time and say, okay, this department has a big increase because they want a vehicle or hire someone. Have them there, because there's no reason to have, like, the coroner comes in, weight and measures come in, or anything like that. I mean, that's 20 minutes we're wasting for a $40 difference in their budget.
Only because
Yeah, I understand
you know what
that.
I mean? I get that, and I'm all about saving time, but I don't see obviously courthouse,
This what?
yeah, well, you know, one of the things we could do to accommodate what Amy is saying, and I agree that is an issue, especially, you know, hopefully you are all meeting with your own departments that you're a liaison for, but in order to cover the other departments, what we could do is spread it out over the course of a year, have each one of the departments make a presentation to us at some time during the 12 months. Especially some of those, you know, like we might see the treasurer, the clerk, or the recorder more frequently than we're going to see weights and measures or one of them. Maybe we limit it to just those departments that we don't normally see at any time.
I always thought it was advantage not knowing.
There is something for that, Bill.
I think whatever you decide, however you end up going with it, there's going to have to be some kind of a deadline date that they know they have to be ready by.
give all of the information.
Well, if they submit their budgets to the auditor's office, do you put those? Well, but I'm saying that would make it the same form that Amy's wanting, is if once,
We would have
if
them
we
in the-
get it once you guys put it in the,
I mean, we have it, it would be in the system the same, but if you're wanting specific questions answered or that you're looking for, that wouldn't be.
no, I just, you know, can you print out each department in below what they've requested? start with that and then have the department head submit a 1 or 2 paragraph page that we would put with it on an explanation. More than that, Amy?
They're probably gonna wanna know what you're wanting because they all freaked out this year when I asked them for notes, anything that might help during their presentation.
Well,
So, okay.
I'm gonna say we're discussing the same thing over and over, but I met with all mine 2 weeks before it was due, and I knew what everyone put in their budget, so I had that part done. But this is something, Susan's gotta go, this is something we can discuss another day. So we should move.
Well,
I
we
hate to be
have to
rude, but-
have information to community corrections fairly early. That has been one of the issues with their wages, because they have to have their grant request into the state before we've ever made a decision on what wages might be increased or what increase we're gonna have in the budget, so.
So the other
Yeah.
thing to think about is we could move everything up. I could require them to have their budgets into me by, say, the end of May, and you guys have presentations in June or July.
The only thing I don't like about that is it's really hard to do a budget for the
I
following
know,
year
I
if you've
know.
only got a history of 3 or 4
I
months.
know.
So,
I make a motion that way to streamline budget presentation.
I second it.
Susan, we're going to lunch. All right,
Call for
well,
the
we don't have to do this calendar, but is everybody kind of in agreement that maybe for next year, we can eliminate one of our budget days in August? We can't eliminate anything in September, but,
We did eliminate in September, we eliminated a half a day.
yeah, a half a day, because we're
Yeah.
gonna use regular council day, so. That work? Okay.
We're at the 12th and 13th.
Okay, all righty. All right, well, this discussion will continue on in our future meetings, but anybody else have anything they want to talk about? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion that we adjourn. Don't forget, the 27th of September is our next meeting. Yes, it's Fair Week, so make sure you have your ticket, your stickers for your parking.
And you better not count on that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded, we adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, same, that motion's carried, we are adjourned.
You, take that week off.
Keep your stuff open, because Andy's gonna have questions.
Monday and Tuesday.
You got questions for me?